Welcome to Building Better Businesses. I'm Kristin Dees, founder of Catalyst Consulting, an agency that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs start, grow, and level up their businesses. This podcast will bring you interviews with experts in all things business related. Have questions for a business attorney? We've got answers. How about your health insurance? Got you covered there too. New episodes coming your way every week. Find us on the podcasting platform of your choice. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Pat Honiotes. I should have asked. How do you say your last name?
Think of his stuff, but bees
Is that right?
make.
Okay, look at me go.
And
Okay.
it's Honiotes.
Honiotes. Oh, yeah, okay. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Anyway, I always forget that. I was like, oh crap, her name's difficult. I should have
No
checked.
worries.
But I
No
almost got
worries.
it. So anyway. And we connected through Polka Dot Powerhouse, which a lot of my most recent guests have been from Polka Dot because I got a lot of people lined up from there. So I posted on our group, and then you were like, "Hey, I want to join." And actually, I think someone else had already
Yes.
maybe
No, yeah.
referred me to you. I can't
It
remember.
was
Like I feel like
Teresa
someone had
Romaine.
told
Remember
me.
Teresa?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yep. Yeah. And then I think a couple of other people had actually told me, they're like, "Oh, you should have Pat." And I was like, "Don't worry, already got it."
Already on it. Okay,
We've
good,
already been
good.
connected. Yeah. But yeah, so no, I'm super excited to have you on. And
Thank you for having me. I'm
thanks for being
looking
here.
forward to this. I've listened to some of your other episodes, and they just sound fun and interesting. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Good. That always makes me feel, because like I'm just over here doing these and I'm like, I hope people like them. I don't know. I have fun and I learn a lot. So that's,
Yep.
that's really
That's the
half of it,
best
right?
part.
um, yeah, exactly. I'm like, if it's not fun, what's the point? So yeah, tell us a little bit about you as a human being. Who is Pat?
I was going to come out with a smarty remark, and I decided. First of all, I am a human being because I know that sometimes people question that, right? I come from the Midwest and somehow have landed in LA, California, of course, and that's quite a different atmosphere. And it's been a slow journey this direction, so I think I'm probably meant to be here. I love it here. There's always so much going on. I always say that if you're bored in LA, it's got to be about you because there's just so much going on. But I like to do things like improv. I've put on a couple of my own one-woman shows. And although that's not my dream to be a star or anything, it's so much fun. And here's a really great place to do it. There's so many venues, so many different things that you can do to tweak the things. So that's what I do in my spare time. I sing, I do a little bit of improv, that kind of thing. And then I have a really strange little puppy dog. So
Nice.
it makes it all fall right into line.
That's good. Yeah, I have one of those as well. He's very
Yes,
neurotic, but
I get
adorable.
it. I
So,
get it.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I'll ever have a normal pet because like all of my pets have always been a little weird, and then I'm like, maybe it's me.
It
I don't know.
ties right in with the work that I do
I've-
because
like,
I'm always drawn to people that are quotes what I call quotes not normal. These are the people that I want to work with. So my friend will say to me,
mhm.
Pat, did you expect that your dog was going to be any different? Really? Come on. So there you have it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Keeps
Never a
things
dull moment.
interesting, right? uh, nope. So do you share a fun fact? I mean, I feel like the improv stuff is that's a good fun fact,
Another
but do you have
random
another
fun
random fun
fact.
fact?
Wow. I don't know if I do. Oh, yeah, maybe I do. About 5 years ago, I was introduced to wine by a friend. And I said, come have a glass of wine. I said, I don't drink wine. And he gives me one of those looks, right? And so I said, oh, all right. And I went and I had a glass of wine with him. I said, that's wine. It was the most amazing drink I've ever had. And then I realized I hadn't tasted wine since high school because the only thing we ever drank in high school is what we could afford, which is Mogan David. That ain't really wine. So since then,
No.
I got wine. I got wine. a whole wall full.
That's
Yeah.
pretty that's pretty funny. That's a good one. And you're like, "Wait a minute. Hold on. I've been missing out on this
Yeah,
for how long? Like, come on."
I'm almost
That
75
cracks me
and I
up.
hadn't had real wine until the last 5 years. So that tells you a whole lot of missing going on there. Oh,
Yeah,
you
but now you're
betcha.
making up
You
for it. It's
betcha.
okay. Oh, it's funny. You were just like, "No, it's gross," and everyone's like,
Yes,
"No, but it's
yes.
not though." Uh, I
We're
love
gonna
wine.
have to get together on that.
Uh, mhm,
There you
yeah,
go.
we'll
There you go.
collaborate. Uh, so what do you do on the work side of things? How do you provide support for business owners and
I kind of
entrepreneurs?
alluded to it a little bit before when I say I really love working with what I call the outcasts, the people that have different ideas, especially women, people that have been dismissed because they're different or they look at the world differently and they're not often heard or seen. And so that's my love. And mostly I work with women to support them in their businesses, in getting them started, developing program for their business, and really giving them permission, quotes, not to be normal. You weren't built to be normal. You've got unique ideas that are really going to serve people. So come on, let's put it into place and let's put it in a container that you can start sharing that with other people. And so it's a lot about,
Mhm.
yeah, there's the business aspect of it because, of course, that has to be there. But it's also about them. It's about them as a person and getting, I call it being the nucleus of your own life. And what I mean by that is you have to center on you first because if you don't, you ain't got nothing to give anyway. And women are taught not to do that.
Mhm.
So the bottom underlying stuff is about teaching them to center on them, having them be the center of their life, and then putting that into the world through their programs, through their businesses, through the people that they're here to impact.
No, that's great. Yeah, because I think the, like, authenticity and, really finding out who you are is such an
Yeah.
important piece of the process, especially if you're
Yeah.
doing any kind of service-based business, but, um, yeah, it's the whole there's so
Yeah.
much, like, guilt and shame that goes into doing that, and like you said, like, for women and moms and all that kinda
Yes.
stuff,
And
it's
it,
a
it
whole that's a
and
whole
it's
'nother
finding
thing to
out who you
unravel,
are,
so
Kristen, but it's also then going through that process of accepting who you are. Because for so many years you've been told,
mhm.
You don't do that, you don't act that way. Oh no, no, you can't do that." It's like, so then you get in touch with, hey, and then you go, really? 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 I can do that? It's okay for me to be whatever. Yeah. It's a multi-step
Mhm.
process.
Yeah,
Oh God,
like,
yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Mhm. Boundary work and all kinds of,
Yep.
yeah, it's crazy. And I can't even imagine because it's like I'm single, uh, and just figuring it out for myself, but having to like try and do that as like a
Right.
mom with like kids and a husband, all that kind of stuff. Like that's a whole nother kind of journey. So yeah, no, good for you. That's really cool. How did you end up where you are? Like, how did you end up doing that? Like, what's your
Have
the
we got
journey
an hour?
of
Because that could that could take a
entrepreneurship?
while. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you
Yep.
that it started in the early 50s. I have a sister, I had a sister that was born, and I'm going to use the 50s language, severely mentally retarded. Now, I wouldn't dare use that language now because it's not
Mm,
politically correct, right? And my mom really wasn't all that equipped to handle it. And so I basically ended up taking care of her, raising her until they institutionalized her. But the thing that used to just just piss me off and put my hair stand up on the back of my neck was the way she was dismissed and disregarded because she was different. And that grew into, I started noticing all the other people that are dismissed and disregarded because they're not normal or march to the beat of a different drummer, right? I have a firm belief that everybody has a
mhm.
birthright of dignity and respect. I don't care who you are, that's our right as a human being. And so it started there, and I really put a stake in the ground for that, which explains the thing with my ladies now. They're different. All right. They've been disregarded and disrespected. So I went from, really standing up for my sister and being there for her. But I taught school for a number of years, high school. And my favorite kids were my class full of gang members, my class full of some of the slow learners, my classes that were physically handicapped, because they could bring all sorts of things out once they were seen and heard. And that just kept morphing into
Hmm.
to where I am now. And now it's about more, I see people who have the ability to stick up for themselves and to bring, and they're not doing it. And so there's a reason for that too. And so it's about getting in there and say, look, you've got these abilities, you've got these things to share. Let's bring it out and cause some disruption and have some fun. So it all started with a little bitty girl that couldn't
Hmm.
stand up for herself, and just it morphed into this. Yeah.
Hmm. No, it's really cool. I think I just saw a post on LinkedIn the other day. I wish I could remember who it was. It was just, I think it wasn't even somebody I was connected to, but it was a picture of her older son. And she's like, my older son is smart and brave and kind and stands up for people. But that's easy when you're popular and attractive and all of that. And she's like, my younger son he always gets good marks in school and the teachers love him. She's like, my younger son struggles with school. He thinks it's stupid and is like, why do we have to do all these things? Like, it doesn't make any, they're
Right.
young. They're like under 12. Um, so yeah, in a nutshell. And so he always gets in trouble because he's questioning authority. And she's like, he's
Yep.
brave too, in a different kind of way where like her older son will, he'll stand up for people or like, talk to a bully or whatever. But then the younger one is being brave in a different way and is going to
Yep.
get his life will be harder and it will be harder for him to get through like the systems that we have in place in school and dealing with authority figures when it's
No.
like that doesn't make any sense.
So it's
And it's like,
about
well, it
it's about
doesn't.
changing
But
those systems,
uh
Kristen.
yeah.
It's about yeah, it's about
Mhm.
flying in the face of that.
Yeah, because there's a place for it too, and it's like that's one of the reasons why I eventually left corporate because I was like, this doesn't like I can't just sit here and just be fine with what someone else is telling me to
Yes.
do, like when it doesn't make sense to me. And sometimes I just need to ask additional questions until it does make sense. Or if I'm like,
Yep.
why would we do this? Like
Yep.
this is really dumb. I just I can't do that anymore. And so I was like, okay,
Yep.
well, here we go. But for however many years you just have to like do what you're supposed to, like you said, do what the world tells
Unt
you you're supposed to do and sit
until
down
that
and
inner
take it
part
and
of you says, "Oh, hell no. Stop it. Hold it right there." And I've been one of those from the time I was a little kid.
yeah.
I think it's a blessing. There were times that I was absolutely convinced that it wasn't. When I started speaking up even as a little kid. It was like, "Oh no, this is stupid. We're not doing this."
Hmm.
But even but
Good for you. Hmm.
it has its downside too, because you take crap because of it, right?
Right.
But it was but I think we all I was just
Hmm.
born that way, I think, but I think we all have that point like you where you said, "Oh no, this stops right now. I'm done. We're going to go do it my way." And kudos to you,
Hmm.
because I know some
Yeah.
of the women I've worked with had been in corporate for 30 or 35 years wondering what the heck happened, right? So kudos to you for getting out.
Yeah.
And there's I'm not dissing
Hmm.
corporate.
Thank you.
It is for some people. It's just not for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I'm like, what is like, am I defective? Like it was like another because I had quit and traveled for a while and then came back and then ended up in that life again, just a different industry. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, and then I was like,
Exactly.
oh no, it's not me. Also, like you said, it's not necessarily them. Like there's a place for that. And some people are very happy there. Some people have good careers there. But I was like, why I kept feeling like I had to just like
Yep.
fit inside somebody else's box of what they thought I should be. And I was like,
Yep.
no, dude, like, mm-mm. So, yeah, but I had to do a little work because, like, sometimes still I get like worked up about it. If I'm talking to somebody that still works there, like one of my friends, I'll get worked up about stuff, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just let it go. It's not your problem, and
No,
you're not
I
always right.
and I
Like
get that
the
part of
other
it.
thing, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
get
I'm
that
not
part of
always
it
right.
too, and I'll even tell I'm willing to be wrong here. But here's the thing.
Hmm.
Are you willing to be wrong? You know? Are you willing to,
Right.
shift a little bit and take another perspective? And I will tell you, Kristen, there's a number of
Mhm.
women right now that are making great livelihoods, being different, thinking out of the box. Um, who was the lady did the brown eye, blue eye school teacher years ago? And the she didn't stay in the
Oh, yeah.
system. She stepped out of it and started. So it's that
Mhm.
kind of thing. You don't have to be
Mhm.
normal to get things going. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the best things, like, I that's all like, having a team that is a bunch of different types of personalities and, strengths and
Yep.
weaknesses and all of that is so critical, and that's just so hard to get there sometimes in corporate, especially when you don't have as much of a choice. Because when you're, like, down the totem pole,
Right.
like, you only have so much control over who ends up on your team, like, you can't just get rid of everyone that maybe isn't a good fit, or you can't just constantly
Right.
fire all the
Right.
people, right? Like, there's some restrictions there. So you kind of have to work with what you get sometimes, and that means putting together people who are their own
Yep.
individual
Yep.
kind of weird, and then somehow mishmash it all together to make it work together. But yeah, so no, that's great. I like it. Um, so this also my first question is one of the reasons why I'm also not there is so you talk about how it's okay to have feelings in business in a world where we're not supposed to have feelings in business. So let's
Oh,
just go
I
ahead and open up that
love,
can of worms,
love, love that can of
Pat.
worms. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's not only okay to have feelings in your business, it's critical to the success of your business. And here's what I mean by that. I'm not about to tell anybody to go around wearing their emotions on their sleeve and make your decisions from a deeply emotional place because that's not what I'm saying at all, although that's where some people jump to a conclusion, right? Here's what I know, and it's a fact. If we've got a strong feeling going on, it impacts how we respond, it impacts some of the decisions we make. Okay? When we deny that feeling
Mhm.
or hold it down and keep trying to push it down, we're still reacting to that feeling. We're still responding to it. We're just not claiming it or we're just not being willing to admit it. And then we're making a decision sometimes based on that, or at least that being part of the issue, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to the person we're deciding on. It may not make sense to people around us, and we do it so much that we get to where it doesn't make sense to us either. For example, if you got someone on your team that is just not, and even in your own business, you've got someone on your team that just isn't cutting it. You're just a mismatch, and you're just really getting frustrated. Tell me you don't think that's not going to come across when you're talking with this person or you're giving this person an assignment, right? And then people pick up on energy. So what it's about is about claiming, okay, I'm really frustrated with Kristin. Once I say it out loud, once I get that and can claim it, now I have a clearer path to a decision that I might make about you. Okay. It also opens,
Mhm.
if you're willing to carry it as far as a conversation. It's like, all right, Kristen, I'm getting really frustrated with the way you're doing this. Can we talk? That can clear it, or it can say, we might both decide it's
Mhm.
time for you to leave, right? But if I keep all of that in, you're still getting the
Mhm.
message that I'm not pleased. It's just not being spoken, so therefore it can't be dealt with. I might hate the idea of people, I don't know, wearing purple shirts to work. Okay. And so anytime somebody wears a purple shirt, I'm irritable and cranky, but I'm not going to attribute it to that because that's really, it's really silly. At least that's the judgment I'm putting on it. But if I can say, she's got on the purple shirt today, has nothing to do with her, and it still irritates me, it clears that energy. Now, I've given just kind of some silly
Mhm.
examples, but if you're holding back on um, how you feel about a vendor, or if something's going on in your life, maybe your mom was just put in the hospital. You don't have to go into work or bring it to your team with all the drama and the wailing of gnashing of teeth. What you can do though is claim the feeling. Yeah. Okay, guys. Listen, my mom was taken to the hospital last night. I've got that on my mind, and so anything I say, please take with a grain of salt. And let's get to work now. So yeah, I think it's
Mhm.
absolutely critical that you claim your feelings and be with them in the workplace, or it's going to have an impact that you can't control. When you claim them and you speak about them, the air is clear and there's room to negotiate, or there's room to make things better, or it's just out of the way so you can work. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like that because I think that I mean, I've always been fairly transparent with my teams about stuff that's going on. Like, when
Yep.
initiatives change or work is crazy and everyone's stressed out, and, then whoever from up on high is like, we need to do this too. And everyone's like, what? It's always just been a space of like, hey, like, this is what the situation is. Like,
Yep.
we have to deal with it. There's nothing I can do. I already threw my fit. And I
Yeah.
was, I made my opinions clear, and this is just kind of how it's going to go. So how do we deal with this
Right.
together as a group? And so my team always took bad news so
Yes.
much better than any other team. I'm sorry, that sounds like there are other teams I'm sure that were
Yeah.
fine, but like in my group, like a lot of the rest of my peers would be like, why is because their team would
Yeah.
like lose their
Yeah.
shit every single time. Um, or they would have, those one or two people that always freak out about everything, which sometimes is me. Um, but uh, again, like I said, when I think it's dumb, I'm like, this is absurd. How could we possibly? But like you have those people on your team, so it was just like, hey, like this is the situation. And so my team always just kind of like adapted and rolled with the stuff because they knew that
Yes.
I had their
Yes.
back no matter what, that I was always trying to look out for my team and make sure that my people were taken care of. And that we could talk about it in that space, but that it was
Yes.
always
Yes.
solution driven. So it's like, it doesn't like, let's get our feelings out about it, but ultimately, like, we're just going to have to deal with this. So, how do we want to do that going forward? And it was just kind of like, oh, this sucks. Like, it's really
Yep.
frustrating. It's like, yeah,
Yep.
dude, I totally get it. It does, but that's the cost of being at the
Well,
bottom of the
and
totem
and
pole,
again
you
and
know?
again, if it's even in
So,
your own business, you get more work done because you're not, "Oh god, do
mhm,
I dare to say this? I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes on I really," yeah. So it's across the board.
mhm.
And you said something that reminded me of
Yeah.
every human being needs to be heard, needs to be seen. And that's basically what you did for your
Oh,
team.
yeah.
It's like, "I hear you. This sucks. Let's get it out
Mhm.
of our systems. Now let's go." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Because there were some people, I mean, not just in that place, but, like, in any job where I had leadership peers, that would just, like, blow smoke and try to pretend like it was fine. They're like, "Yeah, this is a super cool new initiative," and everyone's like, no, it's not," and they're like, "Well, we have to do it, so let's just keep going," and they're like, "This is dumb," and then, like,
Absolutely,
there would
yeah,
be a
because it's
revolt.
not genuine. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so I
yeah,
refuse to do that.
yep,
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you're just, like, saying what somebody told you to say, which, happened in a lot of other
yeah,
instances with those types of leaders too, I think, where it's like, they're borrowing the black hat or borrowing courage from someone else, and
yep,
oh my god, yeah, we go on for that
for sure.
for days, but, anyway, yeah, I think that that's a really good way to put the emotions, like acknowledging it, because as a leader, a business owner, whatever you want to call it, like you have to be the one who has your shit together most of the time. Like you can't have like,
No, but
meltdowns and stuff. So like doing that thing where you're just like, hey, like this
but
is what's
part of
happening.
part
I'm
of
super
yeah,
upset,
part of
trying to
having
work
your
through
shit
it.
together, part
Yeah.
of the way we get our shit together is to
Yeah.
have that space where we acknowledge and accept our emotions first. Because if we don't, then we're
Hmm.
just passing it on. But that's step number one in having it together. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just get this out of my system. And then you can go to that place of reason and logic
Hmm.
because you've admitted the emotion and probably responded
Yeah.
to it somehow. Exactly.
Yeah, and like even like you were kind of talking about, somebody wearing purple is annoying, and how that comes through. It's like I've definitely had, worked with people before that just drive me crazy. And sometimes, especially when it's my actual like direct report, my employee, then I'm like, okay, hold on, like you need to stop because it comes through, like you said, it's just like, oh my God, they're asking another question again, like good grief. But then I have to go, okay, hold on. Like, is this something that I can change, or is it just, like it's who they are and they just annoy me and that's my own
Well, and
problem that I need to figure out
here's
how to
the other
deal with.
thing.
Um,
There's
yeah.
times when you do need to keep your emotions to yourself at work. All right. But the key to that then is
Hmm.
releasing them later. Okay. So I can remember when I was doing an internship
Yeah.
on my master's degree, I was in a alcoholism counseling center as an intern. And my supervisor was just a PETA. I mean, I'm going to tell you, but no, I could not say anything in that situation if I didn't want to fail my internship. All right. So I held all of that down.
Yep.
But that's also unhealthy as heck. And at that time I played racquetball. So
Hmm.
2 or 3 nights a week I was on the racquetball court and his face was on the back wall. And that's when I could let all those feelings out. So however you do it, what I'm saying is you also have to
Yeah.
be smart. All right. And there's times when you do need to just hold them in, but you
Hmm.
have to eventually let them out to be healthy. Whether that's with a racquetball.
Yeah. Even if it's
Yes.
just talking to some.
Yes. I
Yeah.
needed the physical aspect of
Yep.
talking was not going to
Uh,
do it.
yeah. Oh, it's funny. I like that. Yeah, you're just like, I need to go smash the crap out of some racket
Yep.
or some balls right now and just
Yep.
right into this
Yep.
guy's face. But yeah, no, that's a good point too, because like, yeah, you really can't. And sometimes you just have to be okay with it. Like if you do work in a situation where you're not the boss, or you're beholden to other people in some
You
fashion, like
can't.
sometimes you just can't, because it
Yes.
will negatively
But it
impact you.
is
So
important that you get it out later
yeah.
after work. That's the whole key.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Think we're on the same page with that one.
it's good. Yeah. um, so when authenticity intersects with emotions, how can it impact your business, good or bad? How do you think that helps or hurts it? Or can it hurt it?
Well, I think emotions are authentic. It's when we don't claim them or don't admit them that we're being inauthentic. So I'm going to say a healthy
Hmm.
expression, a healthy claiming of, a healthy response to our emotions is authentic. Okay, when I'm not mad. What do you mean? Well, what
Hmm.
made you think that's inauthentic? And it's going to impact the relationship negatively because you're going to be able to tell anyway. So I think
Hmm.
it's all about just keeping them. To me, I'm a little bit stuck on this from the start. I kind of put the two together. That when I claim my emotions and
Okay.
share them in a healthy way, I think that is being authentic, and I think that can only enhance my
Hmm.
business from a couple of aspects. My team interact with my clients enough that I want them to be treated by my team like I would treat them, in the way I'm teaching them to treat their. So there's
Hmm.
that aspect of it, but it just keeps everything clean. I keep going back to that. Is to be real, to be authentic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's great. Hmm. Yeah, because a lot of the work that I've had to do, I'm still working on, because again, like I said, I was programmed, raised, however you want to call it, in a culture of being polite, well spoken, quiet, not being loud, and not sharing your opinions and all that kind of stuff. So, like, a lot of my adult life has been
Yeah.
unraveling that in different ways. And the leadership journey helped a lot,
Yes.
because I had to be, because I refused to be the kind of person that I was talking about earlier, who was like,
Yes.
just the nice leader. I was talking about this with someone else recently on an interview, where it's like, if you leave a team and your team says, she was nice, I was like, you've done a
I was
terrible job. And you were a nice person, and they felt bad about not liking you as a leader, but
I
you didn't do your
I
job.
always tell my
And
clients,
so
when you come up
that's
to those
hard.
really nice people, I want you to run, not
Uh-huh.
walk away in the opposite
Yeah.
direction as fast as you can. Because when they quit being
Yeah.
nice, oh baby, it hits the fan then. So no, I get it. I hear you. Yeah.
Hmm.
Nice doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, so it's just like I had to go through some really painful learning experiences, especially at the beginning of that journey, because I was also a people pleaser. And so it's like trying to figure out how to have your team like you, respect you, appreciate you. Often comes down to accountability, which is the opposite of what most
Okay,
people
so
think it does.
you know what? You wanna know what's even
And so
underneath that?
it's tough.
There's something even deeper than
What?
that. If you take it down another level, is genuinely not caring if your team likes you. I mean, and I don't
Oh,
mean that
yeah.
from a attitude,
Mhm.
"I don't care what anybody thinks." That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
Mhm.
I care about what they think of me in terms of integrity and my skills and that kind of stuff, but I can't care whether or not they like me or I'll change what I'm doing. So, and you're right, it is
Mhm.
yeah, and it's
Yeah. And
accountability,
that's hard.
but you really
Yep.
have to get to that place as far as your clients are concerned too, or at least I am with my clients, is I'll actually, and we're so open with I'll actually have a client say, I really don't like you right now. And I go, okay, no, Pat, you don't understand. I really don't like you right now. And say, good. And I'll sleep just fine tonight. Should we talk about that or should we keep going the way we are? Yeah, it's not. When I was
Yeah.
working on my master's degree in counseling, we had to do these. Well, let me just go to the bottom line. Teaching was that when someone leaves your office, they have to feel better than when they walked in. And that was just kind of, that made
Mhm.
no sense to me because I'm like, then that means we haven't touched on anything. That means we haven't dealt with the hard stuff. So sometimes when my clients leave a session, they're
Mhm.
more upskittled than when they came in. And they may not like me in that moment, but they've got some
Mhm.
stuff to do and they've got some things they can take away that they can work on that next week. It goes back to that being nice thing. It
Mhm.
doesn't, just reach, oh, honey, it's going to be okay. You just hang in there. It's not my style. Okay. I think
Well, and that just it perpetuates, yeah, it perpetuates the problem. It
yes.
continues the victim cycle, which is what most of us need help figuring out. Like I know for me, that's a lot of the stuff that I've had to figure out is like, when am I actually wrong, though?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm wrong. It's awful to say it out loud, but um, yeah, it's in having a therapist or a counselor or a coach or whoever that just tells you that you're right all the time is not helpful because you will never learn. Like I had one that just um I started feeling like I would just go in there and like vent about everyone that I was like frustrated with, and it felt good for a while, right? To have
But
someone
it
be like,
didn't
"Yeah,
change
that's right. Oh,
anything.
that does suck. Like, man, that guy sounds like a jerk." Right? Yeah. So then I was like, this doesn't actually feel good. And now I just feel gross. Like now I just feel like I'm going in and just talking shit about a bunch of people, which is something that I need to work on. I'm like, I don't, I was like, this, mm.
Hmm.
And I still have all the
Hmm.
trauma. So we haven't gotten to anything. But yeah, sometimes there's that fine line of just being able to say, well, here's the thing though, and being able to be brutally honest with someone when they need it. But it does hurt. And you leave and you're like, God, I am a real
Okay,
piece of crap
well, but
human.
see, I
Okay.
don't think it has to be that part either. When they leave, for me, it's not my intention, and
Mhm.
I don't think they feel like they're a piece of crap. I think it's more about I think it's more
Well, that's
about,
good, yeah.
man, that was hard. That was hard. I didn't see that about myself before.
Mhm,
I don't leave people in that first initial reaction of crap because that's not doing any good either, right? It's like, okay, so,
yeah,
and this brings up another topic that I love, which is judgment. I always say drop all judgments, opinions, beliefs, expectations, and rules, and life is a breeze. So if you can look at some of these things about
mhm,
yourself that you're not particularly crazy about, but stop judging yourself as a bad, wrong piece of crap, then there's where the growth is. Go, okay,
mhm,
I'm this way. I've been this way for 20 years. I didn't see it before. I really don't like that. I don't have a very good opinion. And now I have an opportunity to change.
mhm,
And you're still not
yeah,
necessarily walking out with a
which
smile on
may
your face, but it's more about oh, seeing something as an opportunity and something you can do something about. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, especially when it comes to, like, breaking your
Yes,
patterns and
ma'am.
cycles and stuff like that, sometimes you have to see some of that stuff, like, when somebody told me I was doing some, like, couple meetings with like a relationship coach. We just like connected, and she was like, "Oh, I feel like we could talk about some stuff." And we like did the whole like inner child thing, and she was like, "Well, this is the story that you keep putting yourself in." And I was like, "Oh,
No, I
wow.
hear you. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no." But yeah, it was like, okay, I can actually like now that I
You
know,
have choices.
uh, I can do something about it in the future.
I always say
Hopefully. Yeah. That's
awareness
the whole
always
thing.
gives you choice. If you're not aware of it, you have no choice. You're just
Mhm.
reacting. And you're reacting to, and
Mhm.
this is something I've been taught that I really work around, is we all have this deep subconscious belief about ourselves and that's been developed, especially in early childhood.
Mhm.
And as long as you're not aware of what that belief is, there's nothing you can do about it. But it's the thing that you've been trying to prove wrong your whole life. But when you can make it, when you can bring that
Mhm.
belief to awareness, then you can start living your life from the perspective of desire rather than from the perspective of proving that belief wrong. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
No, it's
like one
great.
of the first
Mhm.
ones I got in touch with was
Yeah.
I had this deep subconscious belief that I was stupid. Okay. And I'm not going to go into how we got there and all of that.
Mm.
But I couldn't, but I couldn't understand all some of my behaviors until I found out what the belief was. All right. Someone, a
Mhm.
letter or something. This is the old days before too many computers. I would leave my office, and God help the person that sent one out with a misspelling or a grammatical error. I mean, I would go bananas because I thought it made me look stupid. So the
Mhm.
whole thing is that all the behaviors, or many of the behaviors I had, was to prove that I wasn't stupid. Okay, that's not a very
Mhm.
much fun to live your life.
Yeah.
So then when you know, oh, look at me trying to prove I'm not stupid, you can let go of a lot of crap. Okay, that causes, and everybody's belief
Mhm.
is different. But it's kind of like what you were talking about was the story you had about childhood, the inner child stuff. Make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, and there's so much in there, yep, that you have to it's like, "Oh, okay, you gotta get to that stuff to
Yes.
figure out what all the other things are," because
Yes,
it's all
ma'am.
symptoms of the root cause of the
Yes, ma'am. And
problem,
when you get to that
essentially.
root, it gets really mucky.
Um
But man, when you start clearing it up, that's fun.
Mhm.
That's fun.
Mhm. It feels
Yeah.
much better,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, so how does boundary setting come into play with all of this?
I will tell you that a belief I have is that not setting boundaries, but even more important than not setting boundaries, is not honoring them after you set them, is the 100%. Nah, I won't say 100%. It's 99% of the cause of a lot of the troubles that we have. Because if you think about it,
Mhm.
boundaries are us valuing ourselves. Boundaries are about our self-worth and what we think of ourselves. So it impacts everything. It impacts our feelings. Okay. Our it impacts everything. When we're not setting boundaries, or if we set them and don't honor them, we're just saying, okay, you can treat me any way you want to. Um, the biggest thing
Mhm.
is I have had a lot of people that set boundaries, but then don't enforce them or don't honor them. You might as well not set the boundary. And so we're going to go back to feelings with this one now, Kristen, again, in that I will tell you that I firmly believe the number one reason why people don't honor their boundaries is because they don't want to have to feel the way they're going to feel if they do honor them. Oh, if I do that, I'm going to hurt Susie's feelings.
Mhm.
If I do that, even though you've set the boundary and here's the consequence. Make sense? So it takes us all back to those
Mhm.
feelings again.
Yeah.
So, on a personal level, it can be about people pleasing. It can be about, oh, I don't want them to be mad at me.
Mhm.
So you may set the boundary, and then I actually had a gal this week, and I'm just praying that they honor the boundary. I pray, pray, pray they honor the boundary. I said, oh yeah, because then you don't have to do your work. They're doing their work, but then you don't have to do yours of honoring it. She said, yeah, that's true, because I don't want to feel that way. All right. And then even in business, I don't take client calls after 5 o'clock. That is my boundary. No. And my clients know that. The first time I take a client call after 5 o'clock, what have I done? I've crossed the boundary by picking up the phone. I mean, people are going to try, right? But I'm the one, here's the thing, is when you honor your own boundary, the other person doesn't have a choice unless they want to pay the consequences. That's an interesting, kind of convoluted, isn't it? But it is the way it works. And then when you don't honor the boundary, you might as well not have said it, because it's going to take you back to square one. So if I pick up the phone, that client's going to think that it's perfectly okay to call me anytime they want after 5 o'clock at night. Now, there's also some wiggle room. All right. I know, if I know somebody is critical, I'm going to take the call, right? Or if I know there's some, but that's very, very rare. With the work that I do now, there's not really anything that can't wait until the next morning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's actually something that I've always been fairly good at too, with like since starting my own business and everything like that, is like I wanted to work Monday through Friday. I didn't want to work on the weekends. I want to work during normal hours, which has been fine because most of my clients are the same way, for the most part. And yeah, so I mean, every now and again it'll come up, but for the most part, I'm like, this is just when I'm available. Same thing with my calendar. I'm like, these are the days that I'm available to schedule like connections, networking meetings, that kind of stuff. So when I send my calendar link to someone, I don't schedule meetings on Mondays and Fridays, and I don't schedule after like 4 p.m. or something.
And then
like
it
that.
also involves setting boundaries with your team.
So yeah,
you know what I mean? When I was used to running an office, there were boundaries. You come in late 3 times and you're gone. I mean, that was just the way it is. So the first time you say something and you mark it down. So it's about you honoring things each step of the way too. And the thing is when people know what the boundaries are to begin with, it is so much smoother. It's not the other guy in the office. I was the office manager, but the other guy it's all right. It's only 5 minutes, or it's only 15 minutes. Well, what that did was tell that person that she could come basically late every day if she wanted to. And when it happened on a day when it was inconvenient for him, he blew up and fired her. Well, that's not fair to the person. You know what I'm saying? Just keeping it clean and clear ahead of time. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Inconsistent. Yeah. Yeah, we had because at my last job we had flexible start time, so people could start basically anytime between like 5 and 9 for the most part, depending on the team.
Right.
I mean, they had like a consistent shift. It was like, hey, you work 5 to 1:30 or 7 to 3:30 or whatever. But I didn't care about like what time, because we didn't have like when I worked in retail or hospitality, you had to get there on time, or the person before you either couldn't go to lunch or they couldn't leave when they needed to leave.
Yep.
And so that was a whole different game. But in this environment, it was like, it didn't really matter as long as you were there for, at your client times or whatever. And so my line was, you're here before our morning meeting, for those people who are late people, because there's people who can get up at 5 in the morning. There's people who would rather get up at 11 because that's just how they're programmed. So for those people, I'm like, you just have to be here by this time. And so if they weren't, then it was like, dude, come on. Like, you just showed up in the middle of our morning meeting. Like, how embarrassing. Like, but that was our agreement. And then whatever team leader took over after me might have cared more about what time people got there. But I was like, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter for most of the positions. So let's just make this a little easy thing.
Exactly.
But
it's going to
in
be
some cases,
different
you
for
can't.
everybody in their business. The other thing that I've run into is employees or team members or staff members, whatever we call them these days, I'm old, honey, so I don't always on the up to date latest lingo here. Is they didn't realize that they could set boundaries with their supervisors, with their boss, because you're hired under a certain, this is your job, these are your hours. All right. Now, it's a little bit
Hmm.
different, only from the standpoint that you don't have as much quotes power as the boss does to do anything about it. All right. But if I'm supposed to get off work
Right.
at 3:30 and I know I have to pick my kid up from daycare at 4 and you consistently keep me until 4, I've got a problem and I can no longer do that. And an employee absolutely can say
Yeah.
that to their supervisor or their boss. And I don't mean it in a threatening way. It's like, look at, I have to leave here by 3:30. That was our agreement. And if we can't honor that agreement, I'm going to have to look for another job. So it's also how you say it. And then, or you can
Hmm.
be looking for another job and then say something. But the employee has more power than they think they do. Okay, and it's just that we're so
Hmm.
scared we're gonna get fired. And mostly when that kind of stuff comes up, it's about the
Yeah.
way in which we do it. If I walk into you with this attitude, I'm sure you're not gonna be too excited to grant my request to let me go at 3:30 every day. All right? But if I walk in and yeah, you're getting
Yeah.
it. You understand what I'm saying. It's all about the way in which you do it.
Yeah. Because if somebody did come into me like that, I'm the type of person that'd be like,
Mhm.
okay, goodbye.
Yep.
Good day. And this is your last one.
Yep.
Coming in hot
Yeah.
like that. um, but I also, yeah, that's my particular style.
But
But
the
I mean,
other
if that's the difference, like if, like you said, if someone just come in and was like, "Hey, like, this is really hard. I can't do this," I'd be like, "Oh
exactly.
shoot, I'm sorry." Like,
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly, and I think a
3:30 it
lot of
is.
people are that way.
Yeah,
We have a tendency to respond the way in
yeah,
which we're approached, whether we realize it or not sometimes, you know? So,
yeah. Yeah, and some people forget, like, if somebody doesn't have obligations after work and stuff, they just don't think about things like that sometimes. I could be that way because I
yep.
don't have a lot of stuff where it's like my work time is flexible sometimes. So somebody just needs to be like, hey, I actually have a
Well, and
life.
even when
So
working with clients,
um
my sessions are 60 minutes. I don't do this 50-minute hour thing and all
mhm,
that. I don't, they get their 60 minutes, but then I make sure we're done at 60 minutes. That's a boundary.
mhm,
So and the
yeah,
client can do the same thing.
yeah,
I know some
that
coaches that
makes
have a
sense.
tendency to go over and, "Oh, my client just always tacks on an extra 15 minutes or 20 minutes." I said, "But do you see how disrespectful that is?" So the client can also say, "I have to leave by 4
Hmm.
today." And it's just very simple boundaries, but
Yeah.
again, it's how you do it. Like you were saying before, if you come in hot, it's probably
Hmm.
not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. So what three key takeaways do you want listeners to get from our
Ooh, 3
conversation
key
today?
ones, huh? Well, my
Hmm.
my soapbox is always every living being, every living human being has a birthright of dignity and respect. And to keep that in mind, and I'm going to say
Hmm.
especially around yourself because the first thing we give up is pieces of ourselves. We've just been taught that. That's not everybody, but a lot of women do that. So is what I'm doing keeping my
Hmm.
own dignity and respect from a loving place, not from an attitude, right? So that would be number one. Um,
Hmm.
Number two is to begin to bring your feelings into your awareness more, because then you can also choose how to respond to them rather than, stamping them down and then they just explode all over everybody. And number three,
Hmm.
keep in mind that boundaries are all about you and how you value yourself and your worth, how you value that. Um, yeah, I think those would be the three things that I'd like people to take away. Good, good.
Those are good ones. Yeah,
There is a
it's
there
great.
is a boundary scorecard that I give to people, and I know the information will be out. But just if you're interested in looking at the boundary scorecard and how to track yourself on how good your boundaries are, just write to the support email that will be listed, and ask for the boundary scorecard, and we will email one to you right away. Can help keep you on track.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. No, that's awesome. So on the business side of things, so as an entrepreneur and business owner yourself, what advice would you give other business owners when it comes to running their businesses?
Wow. One of the things, yeah, I used to have a course called 80-hour work week here. One of the things I found is, especially when we first start our business, we do everything. All right. And if you're still doing everything 10 years
Hmm.
later, it's time to, okay, not do that anymore. So, one piece of advice is begin to learn how to delegate right away. Um, Even if it's little things, so that you don't get caught up there. So learn the art of delegation right away as soon as you can. That would be one thing. The other thing would be have a plan. Sometimes a lot of the people I work with just jump in and they have no idea what things cost or length of time that it's going to take. Do your best to have a plan. Now, I'm clear you can't plan every single little thing, but have a plan, have a roadmap that you can follow. And the third one is have some
Hmm.
freaking fun. All right. If it's all doldrums and oh god, forget it. It's not worth it. I'm kind of, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. Now that doesn't mean I have to have a laugh a minute, but put some joy, put something in your business, have some fun, because it's going to make the work easier, but it's also going to have your business be more profitable and it will last longer. So intentional, and that sounds kind of frivolous,
Hmm.
but intentionally put some fun in each day. And if that means you just, you get a cup of coffee at 3:15 every day or whatever that is, if that's fun for you, do it and make sure you do it. All right. If it means you get to put have a
Hmm.
running joke in the coffee room or something, but make sure there's always some fun involved. I think that was three.
Yeah. No, it's great because yeah, no, it's definitely three. Yeah, I think like having fun or what else is the point, right?
Yes.
Like I think I said that earlier. It's like why did you go into business for yourself if you're not going to have fun? And
Yeah.
some of it is hard and some of it is crappy for a while because you are having to do a
Yes.
lot of the things yourself in many cases. But um, my whole goal is to keep adding more
Yes.
of the things that I enjoy and getting rid
Yes.
of more of the things that I don't enjoy. So it's like but
Yep.
it's a process sometimes, like you said, like as you grow and you can start to afford some help, even if it's just part-time help, you start offloading some of the stuff that takes up too much of your time so that you can free yourself up to do the things that
Yes.
you enjoy, which is usually the things that are also
Yes.
your zone of genius, which is usually
Yes.
what you're in business to do,
Yes. Yes.
usually.
I started off with three
In
hours a
many
week with
cases.
my
So
first
yeah.
assistant. And it made all the
Yeah.
difference in the world. And just
Yeah.
laugh. That's the other. I'm going to add four. Okay, Kristen? Is number four is laugh at yourself, because
Okay.
we
All
do
right.
some
Fine.
really silly things sometimes. We
Hmm.
just do. And to begin to laugh at ourselves a little bit
Hmm.
instead of beating up on ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Yeah,
Yep.
just learn as you go. It's fine. Like you're gonna mess stuff up. You're gonna do crazy things and spend money and not make any money back on it. And sometimes that happens,
Yep.
and you just pick
Yep.
yourself up, take the lesson, and move on. Like man, yeah, some of the stuff I've done, I'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe here we are.
Yep.
It's fine. So tell us how we can best support you and or find you on the internet. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Reach out through support@pathoniotes.com. That is really the website, and that is in turmoil now and being redone and all of that. So the best thing to do is to reach out at support@pathoniotes.com. Request that boundary scorecard. You know what? You know what? Let me tell you this. I've started a new
Hmm.
program, all right? And it's in the beta state. All right, which
Mhm.
means I'm looking for 2 to 3 more beta clients, and I'm looking for a woman, preferably, I think. I mean, not that a guy can't do it, but at this point in time. It's a 6-month program, and it's a deep dive into really becoming that nucleus that I talked about earlier, becoming the nucleus of your own life. And it
Mhm.
includes really the deep dive into boundaries and permissions and feelings and getting your stuff together and all of that kind of thing. So, if you know of anyone, or if you know, who's ever listening, you really want to dig deep and pull all this together in about 6 months, and you're willing to work through a beta program with me, when all that means for me is I may be adding stuff as we go through. We'll be, doing that as you need it. It's not carved in stone yet. Please reach out to support and ask for a call with me, and just see if there's anything there for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's a great offer. So yeah. Okay. Well, did we forget anything? I think we talked about a lot of things. I mean, we probably could
With the
talk about
way
many
we're
other
going, we
things, but
probably could talk for
uh,
days, but I think we covered a lot of territory here. We did.
yeah, yeah. Okay, good. I was like, yeah, give me some wine and it'll never end. So perfect. Well, thank you for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. It was a great episode, and I'm excited
You
for
know what?
people to
Thank
hear it.
you. This was fun. I enjoyed doing these, but this was fun. I love your openness and just the spontaneity and your ability to have fun with these. So thank you.
Ah, yes, thank you,
You will.
and I'm sure I will see you soon.